Interesting now when you think. So, looking at the 1688 Bill of Rights, some of the other articles like the right to bear arms for defence in this country, there's quite a lot of dispute and argument over it. And now that I can read some of the other Bill of Rights a lot more clearly and understand it better, there's this piece here, Passage of Arms. They're comparing the American and the English. It's quite a long piece. There's quite a lot of reference material. So it says here, right, this is interesting. It says disarming Protestants, etc. It says by causing several good subjects, that's like law-abiding citizens, who are Protestants, so this is important to their religious faith as well, to be disarmed at the same time when Papists were both armed and employed contrary to law. This is very, very important, This means that they were taking away people's armaments, their ability to defend or protect themselves, right? In relation to other persons being armed and using those arms, or they were being employed, paid, contrary to law, right? Now, religion is an important part of it. One thing's for sure with this 1688 Bill of Rights, it doesn't really concern the right to bear arms in relation to hunting. Doesn't really have anything to do with like kind of hunting in it, right? The thing in America, big country, the Wild West, the open American wilds. The thing about having arms and weapons in America, from the 1600s all the way through, Civil War and everything, is the fact that there's not only these Indians who, it's their country that they're in, and they've got to kind of make peace with them and do deals, and you've got like the Indians' law and then the law of the England until it became the American Constitution, the franchise, so forth in another country. There's multiple reasons to have weapons and armament, like for food and hunting, also to protect yourself from hostile persons or Indians or whatever, right? In England, this legislation doesn't really have any kind of emphasis at all on needing it for food or hunting for arms or armaments. But it does against other persons who are armed and put into employment contrary to law, right? And particularly people who are good subjects. People who are good subjects and of a certain religion. And I guess Protestants now, really, I suppose, is the religion of the country now. Although you had this big thing between Catholics, Popish Catholics and the Protestants. So there's religious disputes and arguments. Good subjects of a certain religion had their armaments taken away from them by people who were employed to go against the law, right? Now, therefore, when we get down to where is the... So they're not allowed to have an army. There's not. If you're in a time of peace, right, you're not meant to actually have a standing army, which is kind of ridiculous because England has got an army all the time. But, there's no reason for anyone to be armed or any soldiers or anything like that in times of peace. Now, the interesting thing at the moment is they're claiming that we're not at a time of peace now, but exactly who's the enemy? And if there is an enemy here, how did they get here? And who's liable for that? Whose fault is it? Someone has allowed it to happen, or there's been a fault. And is anyone accepting a fault for that? Is anyone accepting fault for it? Now, the issue that arises mainly now in this act is religion. But it's two particular religions, Catholics and Protestants. At the moment now, we have got some religious conflicts between many different religions. Like, we've got Muslim, Islam. There isn't really much argument between the churches at the moment, the Christian faiths, but there's argument between other faiths. So, according to this, good citizens are allowed to have arms to protect themselves from other persons who are employed against laws, right? Now, this is the thing. Random, working class people or either poor people or gangs, youths. I'll use the term youths. Random youths or random gangs are not under employment. They're not employed by or organised by anyone, right? And they don't really, do they have religion? You don't usually think of young people, with like Adidas and street cred to particularly be acting on behalf of a religion. But they're from now we've got religious issues with different cultures here. We've actually got a lot of them do act in on behalf of a religion like Islam or Muslims or whatever, I suppose. But there's a lot of young people, youths, gangs who are acting, and they're not acting in the name of a religion, so to say, but they're just acting out of ethnicity, but not a religion, but out of racial differences, I suppose, cultural differences, possibly even class differences, or just general dissatisfaction. But I wouldn't say they're employed. It's either random, cultural, or they're doing it of their own volition, right? Where actually this is about being employed and put to effect, organised, and also against law. So that would be kind of like the Civil War or small militias. Possibly you could say the IRA, or I would probably categorise, all this ISIS and those kind of sort of groups. But if they do act in England, because then it's kind of like more employed and organised, right? But I would be very careful with this, and I'm being very careful with this. That's why I'm talking about it. This is the thing, right? When it's actually got for the subject's arms, this is the subject's arms. The title of it is the subject's arms, right? So it's the arms of the subjects. Now, it says it's the right of the subjects to petition the king. Well, who's got the right to petition the king? Well, we have, right? Well, this is the subject's arms. So this is like the arms, the title of it. Let's not lose this title here, right? This title, right? This title is the arms of the subjects. Now, it is the right of the subjects to petition the king. So that's the same people. Okay? The subjects' arms. the same subjects who have got the right to petition the king and the right to petition. Okay? And people had a family coat of arms, a family crest, like they had on their shields, or any families that were well established, or lots of families have coats of arms now still, right? And that really represents the right to bear arms on the shield and have a crest or whatever of a family, right? It says that the subjects, which are Protestants, so this is religious, may have arms, so they may have them. So the word, when you use the word bear to bear a weight, it means to carry. Because like a donkey, you can have a donkey with a saddle on. You can stack it up with loads of things. It bears a weight, so it's carrying something around with it. It's bearing a weight, like a weight-bearing load. The ironic thing about the word bear is that it's the word for bear, like the animal, the bear. And the bear has claws attached to its hands as part of its body. If you look at a skeleton of a lion, it's interesting that the claws are actually not like our nails, like yours and mine nails. It's actually part of its skeleton. I found that interesting. I'm not too sure about the anatomy of a cow or a calf or a goat, how their hoofs work. I've never looked at it, but it's likely that it's similar to what the cats are, but flat, not sharp. Our nails are completely different. They are not. Our nails are kind of like a separate kind of little plate that's just hard. With the lions and the cats, it's a skeleton. So if you strip it bare, it's still armed. With its claws. Even if you strip it bare, so bare arms basically means it's part of you. It's part of you, and you can't be stripped of them. You cannot be stripped of them because a lion cannot, unless you file them off. Even if you stripped its skin off, its bones and its meat, its skeleton still would be bearing the arms, right? So it's an interesting term, bare arms, because if you're bare, you don't have anything, but if you bear arms, you carry arms. So it's all kind of. It's highly linked to the word bear and the fact that a bear has got claws, and it's right to defend itself with its body, even though it's kind of like an inherent. It's inherent in nature, right? It's almost kind of like the snail or the hedgehog has a right to bear arms. It's not carrying a stick. It's not carrying. A leaf. It's not. It's just as it is. It's that's the creature. It hasn't got any clothes on. It grows like that, and its armaments are part of its natural inherent right under God. So the snail and the hedgehog, its right to bear arms for defence are inherent in God, and obviously the hedgehog spikes are prickly, right? If anyone bites it, it's going to get hurt. So that there is a poetic natural order, how they've written and how the language, or even when the language draws to, but when the term to bear arms is itself a natural poetry. It says they may have them, so they're allowed to. If you may have them, to have and to hold. Another language around this period of time is in marriage, to have and to hold from this day on. So it's definitely, in that book I've just shown you, they're arguing about whether it's the right to possess them or whether there's just the right to pick them up and use them if you need them. The language in this time and period was to have and to hold. So it says they may have. So I would suggest that it's to have and to hold. To have and to hold. For their defence. Now that is not for the defence of anyone else, but for a particular group. There, so the Protestants may have arms for their defence, right? Does that just mean the person or the group? Well, it doesn't mean anyone else. It can only even mean for themselves, personally, or for their small group. As suitable to their conditions and as allowed by law. Now, this is the thing. The current government are making all manner of laws up around what the law actually is. You've got to have a license. You've got to keep it in a protected box or container. There are lots of rules and regulations around keeping them. But what I'm going to suggest is, well, there are two ways you can go about this. The first way is to actually check what the laws were. Were there any other separate acts of law at the time between 1688 and 1700 which actually set out what the laws were? Are there any other acts of law which govern the use and possession of weapons, right? If there aren't, so if you can't find any, then the only other interpretation for this that you can have in that case is that as allowed by this provision allows it, which is that the subjects which are Protestants may have arms. That there allows it, right? So this right here is what's allowing it, okay? So this actual so here the subject, so basically, right, here we go, this is getting into it now, the subject's arms, and it is declared hereby that the subjects which are Protestants may have arms. Done. Therefore, it is allowed, as allowed by law. Hereby now, we allow it, right? They may have them. The Protestants may have arms for their defence. Done. So therefore, now is allowed, as allowed by this law. This one, right? That's one interpretation. And that the style and form of that is almost kind of like the right to petition. It is the right of the subjects to petition the king, and all prosecutions against them are illegal. So it's their right to do it. Hereby, they can do it, and no one can stop them. In fact, it's illegal for anyone to stop them. So there's two parts to it. It's like you can do it, and the reason you can do it is because no one can stop you from doing it. So therefore, it's a similar sentence form to what we get here with the subjects. They may have arms. They may have arms because we're allowing them to do it now, hereby, as allowed by this article, this article in this act, as allowed by this law here, right? Unless you can show me a law from, 1701 or 1705 or 1710 or 1740, 1750, or any time around this time, which is setting out what you can and can't have in regards to shields, swords, knives, guns. It won't just be guns, it will be the whole thing. And the armour, suit of armour, helmets, shields, anything really. Or unless someone's going to conjure one up now and produce it as a forged act, I don't know. So I'd like to see what the act is. I'd like to see it. Is there any law between 1688 and 1720? What were those acts of laws that regulate the arms? Were there any? Or because of this, is this it? So the main thing about this is that we've got groups of people who are being employed And now employed doesn't just necessarily mean paid, it means set to a task, right? Officially, against certain religious faction, right? And the other party are having their weapons taken off them. Now, the thing is here, right? What about your right to a legal defence? Let's use an example, right? We're talking about weapons now. Let's look at the legal model, because you've got prosecutor and you've got a defence. Defence is to defend, right? If someone takes a legal action against you, you have a right to defend it, right? What's happening on YouTube? What's happening on YouTube? They're getting you to agree to all these policies, submit, consent, accept, right? And once you've agreed to them, you literally don't have a leg to stand on. They've literally disarmed you. Where are all the court cases? There aren't any. What they've done is they've used a policy to disarm you of anything. Apparently, once you agree to their policy, you can't take action, right? So they're using they're persuading you through law, legal policy, to disarm yourself of a defence, right? So you don't have a defence. They're taking away your right to defend yourself. So what YouTube and all these platforms are doing is they are basically taking all your videos, all your things off you, all your possessions. Whenever you do anything they don't like, where's your defence? How do I get my videos back? Apparently they're protected by the American government. They're never treated. You can't prosecute them in copyright. You can't have a legal case against them. So they've got more than a defence. You can't take them to court over copyright. You've been disarmed. There's no fair trial or anything. That's what's happening on a legal level, similar to this. But because just because they've got money, they're employed. People who are employed, well, YouTube staff are employed. It's a group of people. They're employed, contrary to law, because without that policy, if you didn't agree to that policy, it would be illegal. It would be illegal for them to take your possessions off you. Not even the courts can take your possessions off you, even if they prosecute you, unless it's a felony. So, what they're doing on a legal level is similar to what they were actually doing on a physical level here, right? And this is what we're getting into now. Now, the problem is we've got all this surveillance, all this police, all these new cameras, all these new speed cameras, and we've got a force. We've got the police. Because remember, in these days, when this bill was written, we didn't have a police force. We had the law, and it was up to the citizens to enforce the law and tell the sheriff, and then take them to court. If someone stole something, you might be able to hire or pay an investigator to go find your stuff for you, or whatever. Everyone just got their own lawyer. Everyone got their own lawyer, really, and it was the jury. You got the sheriff just handles the jails and so forth when you find them and so forth. But they didn't have anything like this police force now. Now, the problem is this big force, the police, are being employed, right? Like under Mark Rowley. And the problem is they're armed. They've got tasers, truncheons, spray, gas, whatever, vehicles, equipment, weapons, right? They're armed, and they have lobbied. The police have lobbied the government because of all these youths and gangs who magically appeared in the country and making the streets unsafe. They've changed all the laws, so no one's allowed to carry anything what will be regarded as being used for defence now. Okay, yeah, it's as allowed by law. Well, as allowed by that, you may do it. Therefore, as allowed, right? You can do it. So, and they're making it so you can't do it. Now, the thing is, in my opinion, is that the whole crux of this act is that certain persons are employed when they're armed and we're not equal to them, and they're acting against law. Now, this is the problem, right? In civil proceedings, you should make sure that all parties are on an equal footing, right? An equal footing. And even with arms, right? All parties have to be on an equal footing, right? Because one or other of them might not be following the law, not just breaking the law. Now, the problem is the police are breaking the law. And this is the thing that is going to make Matt Rowley's head shake, rattle, and roll, because he's a criminal. Until the police force confesses and admits, we're sorry, we enforced the speed limit all around England, knowing that there were illegal road signs in place, and we didn't act against a local council to prosecute them, and it was entrapment. And we got a hell of a lot of fines off people and made people into criminals, right? That's against the law. And they're a force, an armed force. So, and we're not allowed to be on an equal footing with them, right? Well, we're meant to be through the courts, through duties. They took us duty solicitor offers. So when you go to a court and you've got the right for a defence, you're not allowed to use duty solicitors for speeding offences. You'll have to pay for one. You can't use a duty solicitor for it for free. Whatever defence you've got, they've taken away the whole time. And in fact, police, sheriffs aren't allowed to hold common pleas for felonies when they take a driving licence off you. They're not allowed to hold common pleas. And then Tony Blair made it so they're doing deals with you, trying to persuade you to admit that you're guilty or confess for a deal, a lowered sentence, a favour of a lowered sentence. All these things that they're persuading you all the time, to make it easy for them, and but they don't actually end up solving serious crimes. To make it easier for them to get people who are easy to catch, but they never catch any of the serious criminals. And then we had all the juries taken away from the magistrates' courts after they made the courts of conscience supposedly to have more of a fair trial than what you got in the William Penn case anyway. We don't have any civil juries anymore against these big corporate entities. The juries would have kept YouTube and Facebook under order. So, and then we've got this Public Meeting Act. The 77th Brigade and Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, and the Americans, and ITV, Channel 4, BBC, all you're hearing now on all these programmes is, you're going to get stuff taken down. You're going to get stuff taken down. You're going to get stuff taken down. You're going to have this removed. You can't say this. You can't say that. When on the BBC, who are meant to be impartial, have you heard any BBC news presenter or anyone once say the police have got to put this back up? The police are going to be putting these things back up. The police are going to be putting that thing back up. The police are going to be prosecuting Neil Mohan. The police are going to be prosecuting these platforms here. Nothing, not one. Every single thing is take it down, take it down, take it down, get it off. You can't say this, you can't say that. Where's the impartiality? Zero, none. So there's absolutely no enforcement of the public where the other parties have overstepped the law, which means that the police are pro-platform. They're on the side of the platforms. They're pro-platform, they're pro-surveillance, and so forth. And then you've got... So there's there's all the driving and speeding stuff. Then we don't know there's Tony Blair who's got all the judges to go against the oaths, and then there's we're supposed to be holding common pleas, and then there's this whole thing to do with the congestion charge and the Liberty of London, which is more fines. We know they're like racking fines up. We don't even know whether the ULEZ is lawful or not due to that Liberty of London, because you've already paid your road tax and you've already got a legal right to use those roads, or else you won't be able to drive on them. You've already paid a road tax which pays for the maintenance of roads in London and their repair and your right to not only be on them, but move along them, right? You pay the tax for that. So where's this other tax? What is this other tax for? You can't charge someone for going on somewhere that they've already paid for a legal right to use it. Because, or else what have they paid their money for? If you've got a legal right to use it, okay, because you paid for its maintenance and to be on it, what's the other tax for? It's like double jeopardy in law. In law, you can't have double jeopardy. You can't have two cases over the same thing. And what Sadiq Khan really is doing in London with this ULEZ, it's like saying, you buy a jacket, but then I'm charging you when you wear it. It's like, oh, right, it's 50 quid for the jacket, and then every time you put it on, then it's another 50 quid. It's like, it is a con, it's a trick, because they would have to do it so you don't have a right to be on that road or use it unless you pay that congestion charge or that ULEZ fine. But you do have a right to be on it and use it, or else you couldn't be on it, but you can be on it. That's the thing. So it's kind of like, it's almost like a doppelganger. It really doesn't work. And the logic behind these people like Sadiq Khan, these new modern kind of younger politicians, is that they're flying like Icarus too near the sun. It's like these people are doing these legal policies. Team legal, go team legal, go team legal. Hey, we've got a good policy. We can terminate your account for any reason or no reason at all. What? Even if I'm Chinaman? Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, right. Well, I've got a legal right to enforce you to not do that because it's a crime. So I've got to be upholding the law here and preventing you from, removing that. Their lawyers are just... These American lawyers in these big corporate companies getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds. They're on hundreds of thousands of pounds. They go into courts and they bluff, cheat. I've just won a big case. It's $200 million or whatever. This is what happens to the country when you get this Trina Thompson in as a judge, because they're not capable of doing the job. They're not capable of doing it, and Robert F. Kennedy will defend them and say, well, they are capable of doing it, they're just not that honest and they're crooked. Well, I don't think it's just that. They're not capable of doing it. And what happens is that the entire law of the nation suffers and it's like a tangled up ball of wool. It's a mess, right? A complete mess, because you've got people who are not capable or competent. And then you've got Tony Blair with his, let's bring loads of deals in. We'll bring a new Favours Act in. If you start confessing, then we'll reduce your sentence for you or do you a favour. It's against the oath. And, either Blair just, firstly, Blair's a criminal, he's corrupt. Secondly, even Tony Blair, I'm probably being hard on that Trina Thompson, really, because Blair's a good example. Why should I pick on her or Kamala Harris when Tony Blair's doing it? So again, you've got these big mistakes. It's like on Goldfinger when he's playing golf with him, and he lost his ball. He got the ball mixed up. He got it wrong. And then, he pots it in and he thinks he's won. And he goes, well, you played the wrong ball. You've lost. You lost the game, Goldfinger. And then he's not happy about it because he lost, because he cocked up. He made a mess of it. And that's exactly what Tony Blair's done. He's done a Goldfinger round the golfers, Tony Blair. He's played the wrong law, the wrong act, and he's brought favours in so he could just get they can get, easy criminals, just get them to confess when it's against what the Constitution's meant to be, for specific reasons to do with authority, armed forces, military, unfairness and so forth. And Blair's cocked up the whole entire country, entire nation's legal system. One cock up because he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to law. He thought he did, but this is the thing, it's like Icarus flying too close to the sun, and now we've got a mess. What's the solution? Well, the thing is, all of the laws now have been to don't carry things in the streets, don't do this, don't do that, all because of these using gangs. But the thing is, the police will protect you. We don't need anything, apparently, because the police will look after us. But if we don't have the police, then God help us, protection money. And this is the thing, what they're pushing on the news now. Ooh, be afraid, be scared, all these gangs, but you can't carry this, you can't do that. The police can, though. Well, what's actually happening is we're actually being disarmed, right? Every person has an equal right to arms under this, right? I want the Protestants. Well, it's meant to be that's the national religion now, Protestants. Who isn't a Protestant in England? Who isn't a Protestant in England? They got rid of the Popish Catholics, so they're all Protestants now. So that's everyone. When it's a more of a minor fraction of religion, or it's under threat from other persons, but these were actually persons who were employed to act against them and take their defence off them. If tech was a religion, if tech was a religion, all the people who worship that religion, right, it's, there are various aspects to this. Firstly is that people should be equally prepared to defend themselves. They don't need to rely on the police or whatever. And if you've got a gerbil or something and you put it out in the woods, it's going to be at risk because it can't look after itself. That's the problem. These Protestants, apparently they were good, well behaved, nice little gerbils, but they can have arms to defend themselves. This is the thing. But the main aspect of it is that it's the youths and the gangs who are breaking the law. I don't think that's just the case. The case is that the police who have been given arms and are employed are acting contrary to law. They're actually breaking the law. And the problem is, when they admit it, right, it's so bad what they've done. It's so terrible that they can't even the admission of it will, when someone's done something that's so bad, the admission of guilt, the confession, because when you confess, you normally go to the Catholics go to the priest and it's confessions, isn't it? You go into a private box with a priest and confess, to forgive you for your sins. It's not a public thing. You go into the priest and confess in private, right? But convicted criminals, they were hung up. If you confess to a priest, and I think that's the thing for when you've sinned and you go to a priest and confess, I think you're forgiven then, because it's in private with a priest, isn't it? I didn't think of that. This would be a good thing for black belt barristers to consider. If you've sinned and you go to a priest who's meant to be a judicial person, a priest judicial, remember, right? He can forgive you if you confess with him in his private booth. This is like the cleansing, that they've got some weird cleansing for the assisting offenders in with the Crown Prosecution Service. But convicted criminals who are dealt with through the courts and the prosecution, they're like, have their ears chopped off, or they're hung up in public and they're made an exhibition out of their, they are kind of, made an example of to the public, and this is the thing with the police. The police's crimes are so bad against so many of the public that if they were to confess now in public, if Matt Rowley went up on a stand and confessed of all the illegal road signage around England and all the fines, the public uproar would be so great that he would shit his pants. Basically, the entire police force would shit its pants. They can't do it because the anger would be so great for what they've done that the shame that they've got is unbearable, and the public is so bad, so they've got to bluff it, blag it, lie about it. You got to have Keir Starmer. Oh, they've all been naughty. Well, we'll have to gradually phase the road signs out and gradually phase in these new robot-controlled cars that can't go over 20 mile an hour, and you'd be satellite guided and pay per mile. You won't be able to drive. Well, it's all right. We'll bring him back, bring Icarus back down from the sun, nice and slowly. Start, and we're sorry, we repent, we'll make change. So this is how these people do it. I don't know whether these people have been confessing in private in front of a priest or what, but they certainly aren't made an example of in public because the public won't accept it. So what these force has done is got itself into such a pickle that it's so bad that it cannot even confess. It can't. It's too dangerous for it to confess, and the public will be so dissatisfied. And what's happening now is that they're blaming all the problems in society on these gangs. Oh, it's the gangs. Oh, it's the Muslims or Sikhs or Islam. It's the religious fractions. It's the gangs. When the police are a gang. The police are a gang. They broke the law. They're armed. They cheated us and they've disarmed us from protecting ourselves. They took away his duty solicitor from those speeding fines. They're cheats. They're crooks. It's disastrous. This Hormer guy, this new Attorney General, it is meant to be, meant to be enforcing the rule of law. The idea to have this elite group of trained people who are, it's a very, very bad idea. And it's a very bad idea because they're all aligned and they're all protecting their own interests. Police won't prosecute prosecutors won't prosecute police. They're protecting their interests. All the English law, the law is meant to be for anyone to use. You're protected by the law, not by the police. The law protects you because it gives you the right to protect yourself. If you haven't got the right to protect yourself, to defend yourself, if someone comes to punch you, you got the right to defend yourself. It's in the law. It's in the law. If there wasn't the law there, then you wouldn't have the right to protect yourself, and anyone could pummel you silly, right? But you've got the law, and the law's meant to prevent them from doing it. It's actually the law which is the whole point in it all, not the police. It's actually the law and people. Any person. It's law and people self-governing themselves with law. But it's got to a fact now. It's got to a we're also we're like pet gerbils, and everyone's who's scared can't look after themselves. Where now they've got these youths and gangs running around, with all these knives or whatever, and then the police are like, "Oh, there's loads of little kids with knives running around. You better be scared. You need us to protect you, or there'll be trouble." So effectively, we have been we've not only been disarmed, we've been completely and totally. We've got a handicap. We're actually handicapped, and we need these police to look after us. Who don't even. You have to wait half an hour to speak to them on the phone. They hang up on you. In many cases, they don't do anything. Some cases they do. 3,500 cases last year of online Facebook. They went to see people for Facebook. The majority of people they didn't. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't like it. They're getting all this, training, all this gear, all this equipment. We're paying for it all. A lot of them aren't fit. A lot of them aren't fit at all. And now it's all going online. So they've become perverts and voyeurs as well. Oh, spying on his equipment, looking at what videos you're making. Let's take a peek at this or that. Like Mr. Shiraz in Scotland's laws, which didn't last long because, his, SNP are out. They voted the SNP out. What was the point in that? I think they only got him in to put that law through. So it really is. 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 It really is ridiculous. We're being reduced, and you know. So I think that incitement. So the police are saying, if you incite people to basically break the law, what's the point in using the words like rioting, violence, whatever? The police have not only incited themselves, the highways to put up illegal road signage and trap people, but they've also been rewarded for it, and they've even made money out of it. Fines. It's a racket. It's a complete total racket with authority, abuse of authority. Um, but where are the public using the law? The CPS haven't done nothing. Where's the public using the law? I've heard one ex-police officer talking about setting up a system whereby you could get members of the public or even lawyers, volunteer lawyers or solicitors or volunteer persons to start making arrests and setting up a prosecution, an independent prosecution process, a little bit like Extinction Rebellion are doing in political, but for law, not for political matters, for legal matters, an independent public prosecution, so the public can use the law and volunteer to be police and actually arrest the police and prosecutors and lawfully go to courts and get them convicted. But I can't see it happening because the police are, if Rowley gets so vicious like a pit bull and tears a microphone out of a reporter, when he comes out of a meeting because he can't handle the reporter asking him questions, then how's Rowley going to react when we start arresting police officers lawfully when they've, with evidence, you're a criminal. You organised a criminal gang of officers to operate and mislead people on purpose, psychologically, it'll overload. It's like a computer short circuiting. It's like when your computer just it can't handle it. It can't process it. So, some of these, when these people get pressure on, like Alan White, when I challenged him over stealing my notices, he just short circuits. He just goes berserk. It's like Rowley with that newspaper reporter. He just goes for the microphone and smashes it. These people, they're so like, I'm, the Rumpole of the Bailey, or roll the red carpet out. The executive chief superintendent officer commander conqueror of la la la. By the time they finish with their rank and titles, no, I'm a hero, I'm a champion. I've put 1,500 murderers in prison. They think they've got the right. They're telling you, behave. They're telling everyone else to compose themselves, yet they're ripping microphones out of news reporters' hands, attacking them like Alan White, turning into berserkers because they can't take the pressure. So it shows that some of these people, they're just human like everyone else. This is the thing. So where are we with it? Well, for one thing. They're pro-surveillance, they're pro-tech, they're lobbying the government for more and more of these, the more and more things we can't say, more and more things we can't do, more and more places we can't go. Instead of more freedom, it's devolution. It's devolution of the general public, unless you're kind of like, 2.4 children, some kind of like Happy Meal family, which is completely and totally false and fake. I think the police like people who turn up to watch, Graham Norton. If you're in the audience with Graham Norton clapping, then you're all right. If you're going to watch, if you stay at home and watch Simon Cowell, you're all right. You know, if you're in an audience somewhere clapping, then you got nothing to worry about. You know, just turn the TV on, watch the game show, play the game, clap at the celebrity, go to the O2 Arena. You know, if you're a customer, a client, you know, if you're a clientele, if you're buying their products, they're selling you. If you're buying their chat shows, if you're buying their TV programs, if you're buying their cornflakes boxes, buy, eat the cornflakes, buy the thing, go, this is a thing, and that really is what has caused all of the problems and all of the social disparity between the classes and so forth. So, what is the answer or solution? Well, I don't know. Maybe Matt Rowley should be the Prime Minister and not Keir Starmer. But that's the reason the the Director of Public Prosecutions is a Prime Minister, not not Peaky Blinders. So, it's the police. The police are employed and they've been breaking the law, and we've been disarmed. We can't defend ourselves. You can't even defend yourself with language now. Barely. Even though we're supposed to have a right of church, state, or law matters of complete and total freedom of speech. So I don't really know what's going to happen with it. I actually think that they've taken the juries away from the civil courts. They've taken the juries away from the magistrates' courts. They've taken your right to a duty solicitor away from you for a defence when they had an armed force who were employed and not acting to the law and getting extreme lots of shooting you with lasers, shooting you down with lasers and tricking you with signs and catching you out and making a hell of a lot of money out of it against law. Oh, and you don't even have a right to defence by a duty solicitor. This is Tony Blair, and then they're persuading you to confess. Give informations, and they'll do you a big favour, and give you half a sentence. Even though they're breaking their oath, set judges up to break their oaths. So then there's Keir Starmer. Oh, you wouldn't have my glasses, would you? It's the framework. The framework is new prop. Starmer's new prop. It's all the glasses' fault. It's all the fault of the spectacles. It's my new prop. It's almost like a pirate having a parrot on its shoulder, isn't it? Oh, it's it's not my fault. It's like Starmer's new black frame spectacles. It are like a pirate with a parrot on its shoulder. You blame the parrot. This is a thing. Shiver me timbers. It's joke. It's like having a squirting flower or something, like a squirting flower, or some other thing like that. It's all left, all like Jiminy Cricket with a left shoe and a right shoe. I mean, Starmer could have probably gone with, switching his shoes around. He could have put his shoes on the wrong feet. He could have put his left shoe on his right foot and his right shoe on his left foot. And then, he could have been, it's almost like a Jiminy Cricket costume. It's like the two Ronnies, isn't it? Starmer's new bad framework glasses. It's not my fault, blame the glasses. It's like these, it's like Roy Chubby Brown, isn't it? Blame the flying cap, blame the pilot's hat. Or, I've got my shoes on the wrong feet, I've got the wrong, it's a government, it's a framework's fault. It's the framework's fault, not my fault. Even though I was Director of Public Prosecutions, but it's the framework that's bad, not me. This is it. It's so Jiminy Cricket, Mr. Bean. It is actually like some kind of comedy sketch or something. I am praying that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. gets elected in America, or we're screwed. And I don't actually think how bad it is and how we need to get it sorted out in the whole world. If Donald, all Trump is bothered about is making money. You got to make a lot of money out of that. Got to make money. Got to make a lot of money out of that. We can't have people who are interested in money and profits and their fake inflation. And Kamala Harris, I'm sorry, but she is not. I don't think she is the person we need at the moment to correct the planet, because, Trina Thompson is an example of this in the court. These people are kind of like pro-slavery. It's ironic that all of the slaves were liberated, and now the slaves that we liberated now want to enslave us with tech, with spying, having a peek on your phone before you even put anything on your phone, when you're just talking about putting it on your phone, or all of your YouTube, 10 years of your entire memories, life, and history erased, like on Back to the Future, because of Kamala Harris, because she broke one rule, even though YouTube's platform is not that perfect itself. It keeps making multiple errors, glitches, false strikes. Imperfect people governed by an imperfect framework. It complete total, lockdowns. You can't move anywhere without paper mile. The whole thing is, you see, that Chinese social point system has got to be, it is slavery. That has to be slavery, because the reason why is a jury, right, in England can vote on its conscience, on its own opinion, no matter what. Now, if a jury in England can vote entirely on its own conscience, right, its own, and the law in America, the oath of the judge in America is that it's without respect to persons, which includes the defendant's conscience, right, without respect to persons, even though they've ended up manipulating them into all these deals. Well, just a minute, I thought we were in a court of law to put evidence on and prove something to a jury through a robust legal process. No, actually, we'll do you a deal if you want. We'll negotiate it. Oh, we're negotiating now, are we? All right, I thought it had to be proved through a strict regime process. No, we'll just work it out, and then, we'll knock 5 years off if you just give us the information. This is it, without respect to person's conscience. So, effectively, right, how in China, if you've got a social point system which is based on your own behaviour and choices, your own free will as an individual, how would that work in a court of law in England? Would that mean that if a jury turned up and they've got a right to decide on their own opinion, if they acquitted someone, then does that mean that they'd lose social points if the Prime Minister didn't agree with the outcome of it? We can't have juries acquitting people. You'll have to knock your social points. Now you won't be able to drive home from the court. You'll have to catch the bus or the train. You take a driving license off you. This jury just acquitted someone, just acquitted Julian Assange. Oh, no, you can't do that. Now we'll have to take away, now the jury will have to catch the train home or walk, they'll have their social points removed. That's effectively what China have done, They've actually making they've encroached on people's own personal decisions and choices, and there's legal consequences for that. And it's all under surveillance and watch the whole time. That's been owned. That, I'm sorry, but it's been owned, because it's like your owner says, "Oh, you didn't smile at him today, so he's going to, you can only have 3 cookies instead of 4." Right? Now, maybe there are people who shouldn't be eating as many cookies, but they've got all these television influencer programs that are trying to persuade people. They're persuading people the wrong way. This is the thing with the culture, all these TV programs and TV shows, they're all persuading people for more, or laughing at it. They're not trying to persuade or encourage people to make the right, responsible decisions. You shouldn't have to make all these laws up, like, you can only have 1 child, or you can only buy 1 box of cookies, or put on people on ration tickets. But the TV has all been sold out and bought out by these Donald Trump-style corporate entities with fake inflation, and they've been pushing everyone over the limits the wrong way. And the police, if we didn't have Peaky Blinders, Arthur for the Met Police Chief, Arthur the embezzler, he rips a microphone to pieces, when he comes out of a meeting because it didn't go his way. if we actually had not Max Hill, who doesn't even know what fucking acts of legislation is governing the exact thing that he's prosecuting, like defacement. If we actually had an actual intelligent prime minister who's actually, intelligent, right? Maybe, or a police chief officer, who's got access to King's Counsel, a police chief officer with public financed legal services and psychologists, Oh, do you want to go see the Samaritans? Oh, now we've got some detectives who are working out that all these television programs and TV shows are, causing people to become unhealthy and causing them harm and so forth. Let's prosecute them, let's prosecute these supermarkets, but unfortunately, they're all buying the cookies, the police are driving through McDonald's, and buying the burgers. They're not prosecuting them. And this is the problem with the thing. They're allied to these commercial forces, they're not impartial. I'm partial to to some chicken nuggets. I'm partial to a few chicken nuggets. I'm not impartial to chicken nuggets. I'm partial to chicken nuggets. This is the thing with it. So, the police are. I'm not impressed with the police at the moment. They need to confess. And if all hell freezes over, then maybe that's what we need to cool us down. This is the thing. We don't know if these police officers have been in the confession box. The Archbishop of Canterbury, with his past oil investment industries and so forth, confessing their crimes, whatever they've done, and we don't know about it. This is the thing. So, according to this, anyway, this bill, this says that it means that any good law-abiding, people of the religion of the country who have a right to arm themselves for defence from people who are put into employment armed, who would disarm their opponents and act against the law. Well, that's the police, unfortunately. That is the police, because when this was written, the police didn't exist, and now they do. And they're being employed, acting contrary to law, disarming us, and even disarming you from the right to a duty solicitor after the cunts, holds common pleas against you unlawfully, and you set all the judges against their oaths. So it's Blair, Tony Blair has not left the country in a good state. He'll think it's in a good state because he couldn't give a flying fuck what the law is. Tony Blair couldn't give a tiddlywinks monkey's flying fuck what the law is. He's a prime minister. He makes the law. This is a problem. He's an employment lawyer from Lincoln's Inn who hasn't really got a fucking clue what he's doing. It's like, would you let a charity shop worker fly a plane? This is a problem. Would you let this man be the Prime Minister of England? This is the thing. I actually think that the lawyers, I think that they wanted a revolution, and I think that Tony Blair and his peers thought, right, we're going to stitch them all up. Because the thing with Blair is, people think that, he's Labour Party, but he's not. He's a lawyer. Blair, I don't know how Blair ended up becoming leader of Labour, because he went to Lincoln's Inn and he's a lawyer. He's hardly, he's not George Galloway, that's for sure, and neither is Starmer. Starmer's not George Galloway either, Starmer was apparently a top human rights lawyer. So, he ain't George Galloway, that's for sure. They're not working class people, these people. I don't know why they end up being in charge of Labour, because they're there to lead and control the workforce. They're not there to help working class people, I don't think. Or they make out they are when they get their votes, But there's and how have we ended up with all these youths on the streets who are in a position to have the attitude that they've got, and all these different ethnic minority issues, religious issues, wealth issues, pissed off because of this new surveillance slavery model that's coming in, and the platforms disarming us from our legal defence, getting us to consent, accept to fucking everything, then you peeking spying technologies, which in the 1950s would have been regarded as a harassment, and spying on people. It's ridiculous. We need to do something about it. And I actually think that it's slavery. I actually think we've freed the American Civil War, freed all the slaves, right, and made it illegal. You don't own people, and now all the slaves we've freed want to enslave us, like Trina Thompson and Kamala Harris. They want to enslave us in a new type of slavery, like the Chinese. Do as you're told. We own you, basically, or you won't be able to even move around. You won't be able to walk. You won't even be able to leave your village. You won't even be able to leave your house, your garden, your village if you misbehave. We tell you, do as we say. So Kamala Harris is like the it's worse than Rocky Horror. It's so perverse that we would break the chains of those people, and the American Civil War, an actual war to free persons, and now those persons want to enslave us in a new highly technological version of prison, basically, at large. Do as you're told, exactly as you're told, and even like what we tell you. Not even that, we even have to like, and you're not allowed to hate anything, by the way. You're not even allowed to dislike anything. It would have been really cool, wouldn't it? Or funny, not cool. It wouldn't have been cool. That's a joke. But what what happens if in the Civil War, instead of having the Civil War, they'd have just made it illegal for slaves to hate being slaves? You're not allowed to hate your masters. You're not allowed to hate being a slave, and you're not allowed to hate being owned. That's illegal. It's a hate crime. It's a hate crime for all slaves to hate their owners and to hate being slaves. That would have been a pronoun, wouldn't it? That would have been a pronoun for Kamala Harris. It's illegal for slaves to hate their captors, and it's illegal for them, to hate being owned. That would have been a pronoun to have in front of it. Oh no, we're not having that. If we free them, then everything will be okay. They don't have to have, paper mile, paper slave. But no, we're going into Chinese social order lockdown where you don't even have your own opinion or conscience. We'll tell you what to think and what to like, or you won't be allowed to go out anymore. This is the way we're heading.